I don't know about you, but I very much so enjoy Bailey Sarian's videos on true crime and doing makeup and stuff like that. So I wanted to start doing a series talking about like metal stuff while doing my makeup at the same time. I know that my roots are very overgrown and my nails are not looking too hot, but it's fine. As you probably saw from the little intro that I did, we're going to be talking about Linkin Park today while I do my makeup at the same time. But I wanted to just give kind of a content warning. I will be discussing drug use, suicide, CSA stuff. There are kind of some heavy topics, and I laugh when I'm nervous, so I'm sorry if I'm like giggling through this whole thing. Oh my god, I want to die. Okay, well, oh, I have a whole container of cheese. Something else that I'm going to be doing that you're probably going to be seeing is while I'm filming this, because I have no idea how long this is going to take me to film. Hopefully it's not more than a day, is that I'm going to be eating cheese. Because cheese is just good, and my boyfriend and I really enjoy just a good old-fashioned charcuterie board. Feel free to skip through. I'll try to timestamp everything, because I have no idea how long this video is going to be. It might be really short. It might be really long. But I figured why not discuss something that I love while doing something that I love, which is my makeup. Without further ado, we're going to be talking about Linkin Park. So I don't know about all the rest of you or how old any of you are that could possibly be watching this video, but I am 26. And let me tell you, the early to mid 2010s, like early 2000s to mid 2010s, that was a time. I don't... Oh my god, you had to be there. Whether you were on like the alternative side of things or the pop, fun, crazy, it really was more like Club Kid, but there was some overlap between like emo and Club Kid stuff. Yeah. Linkin Park pretty much just like changed the game. So Linkin Park formed in 1996, and the original band members were a little bit different than the ones that got like signed, mainly being they had a vocalist along with Mike Shinoda that ended up just like dipping out. So I'm just not going to be talking about him at all because I just don't care. I don't think that many people do care, if I'm being honest. Mike Shinoda is one of the better composers of our time. Let's just be honest. And Chester Bennington is one of the greatest metal vocalists of all time. I mean, plenty of people have been saying that for quite a while. Wow. This foundation is full coverage. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Mike Shinoda went to college, I believe UCLA, and ended up finding the other band members, which was cool. I guess I should probably talk about who's in Linkin Park. And bear with me, I have to check my notes, okay? Just humor me. Mike Shinoda, obviously, one of the main vocalists besides Chester. Their lead guitarist, Brad Delson. Their bassist, Dave Farrell. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his last name. DJ Joe Hahn and Rob Bourdon. We're going with Bourdon. And he was their drummer. The saddest thing about all of this is that as far as I'm aware, a lot of the band members just kind of fucking went radio silent after what happened. That day changed my life. Oh my god. Did anyone else like find out about that? Like what happened? And just like had a full breakdown? Because I sure as shit did. I was 1 year out of high school and I really thought my life was crumbling. Which it kind of was. I'm not gonna lie. So if you haven't listened to Linkin Park, you need to. Go listen to them and come back. Everyone that I know at least knows who they are because of those goddamn Transformers movies. So Mike Shinoda was born February 11th, 1977. He co-founded Zero with Brad and Rob, which turned into Linkin Park. I am now dating a guitarist, producer guy, so the whole, like, oh yeah, you play instruments? Okay, yeah, I do too, so let's do a band. That, I had no idea that's how it fucking worked. But anyways, when they brought on Joe as their turntablist, they were recording out of Mike's bedroom. Originally, they had Dave Farrell and Mark Wakefield. That's when they were like the band Zero with an X. And Wakefield left and Chester replaced them. So after they brought on Chester, they got signed to Warner Brothers Entertainment. I swear to God, there is a gnat trying to get me. On to Joe Hahn. Joe Hahn was born March 15th of 1977 in Dallas, Texas. He's mainly known for his DJing and music career and graphic design, but he's also a really great director. And I'm pretty sure he directed almost all of their music videos. Joe and Mike ended up making most of the album artwork as well because they're both graphic designers, and so most of those iconic albums that you see were made by those two. In 2003, Joe told MTV that filmmaking was his main passion and that music was just kind of an extra thing for him. He also became the first Korean American to win a Grammy in 2002. So now we're going to be talking about Brad Delson. Brad was born December 1st, 1977 in California. Brad is the lead guitarist for Linkin Park, and I believe that's what he's best known for, other than like him really continuing on like the philanthropy, which I will be discussing here in a minute. Brad also attended high school with Mike Shinoda. He played the trumpet for the majority and then started playing guitar, I believe, when he was 12 years old. Brad also attended UCLA, where he was roommates with their bassist for like 3 years. Brad was also one of the founding members of Zero that turned into Linkin Park. Brad played guitar on all the albums for Linkin Park, and he did fill in bass parts himself on Hybrid Theory, while Farrell was doing his own thing with a different band temporarily and then came right back. Which, yeah, we're not going to bother setting. Usually I take my sponge and I just kind of... But it's 8 o'clock at night. I have nowhere to go. I'm literally just doing this for this video. So, we're just going to use a brush. So Rob Bourdon, their drummer, was born January 20th, 1979. When he was young, he started taking piano lessons, and then he apparently went to an Aerosmith concert and literally was like, I want to do drums. So he also went to, oh my gosh, I don't know how to pronounce this name, Agora High School, with pretty much everyone else in the band, with Brad and Mike. And they were all in jazz band together. And before he started doing music full time, he was a bowling alley party coordinator. There isn't too much else fun to say about him except for the fact that he created a relative degree with Brad, and they started doing that with each other before they joined Linkin Park with Mike and everything. Last but not least is Chester. The words that I have for the story of Chester Bennington are zero. I have no words. So, here's your trigger warning for lots of talk of sad stuff. And honestly, if you're sensitive to this, like, I'm going to try and be putting timestamps like in the little thing down there. You should be able to click on it and like skip past this if you really need to. But honestly, I do think it's kind of important for people to hear, just because I didn't know about a lot of this stuff, and I am a deep in the trenches Linkin Park fan. And it literally can be found just on basic Google searches, but I had no idea. I didn't take the time to look into it. But for me, it definitely shed some light on possibly some of the stuff he might have been dealing with at the time of his death. So Chester Bennington was born on March 20th, 1976. He mainly focused on Linkin Park in his career, but there were some points that he was part of a few other bands. Grey Days and Stone Temple Pilots. He also made his own band, Dead by Sunrise, in 2005. Just a little side project he had while he was working on Linkin Park. He also did some acting. He was in Crank, the sequel to Crank, and one of the Saw movies, I believe. If I'm being honest, doing research for this video made me cry. Hopefully I won't cry again, but if I do, I'm so sorry. So Dan Weiss from Billboard said very specifically, and I quote, "Bennington turned nu metal universal. I cannot begin to explain how impactful Linkin Park and Chester Bennington were to the metal scene in general." I mean, at the time, granted, I was young. I was born in 98, so, like, I wasn't, like, an adult at the time, obviously. But as far as I was aware, they made everyone enjoy rock music. You had people listening to, like, Jennifer Lopez, and then they turn on Linkin Park. Like, same playlist on their iPod Nano. The coolest thing that I can think of possibly about Chester Bennington is that his inspirations for music were Depeche Mode and the Stone Temple Pilots. I don't know how to explain the parasocial relationship that millions of people had with Chester Bennington, but we all had it. And if you're going to sit there and act like you didn't, literally freak out every time he was, like, in an interview or anything, you're lying. And the fact that he was able to be a vocalist for a little while for the Stone Temple Pilots, that just, like, I mean, you just have gone full circle at that point. It's cool. That just makes my heart happy. So when Chester was 7 years old, he was sexually assaulted by a friend, and that friend continued to sexually assault and abuse him until he was 13 years old, which, looking back on a lot of Linkin Park's lyrics, because if I'm being honest with you guys, I didn't know that about him. I had no idea. He was a boy, and that happened. It's just moving on. And apparently years later, he did end up telling his dad what had happened and told him, like, who it was. And his dad decided to not press charges for whatever reason. I'm not even gonna make any comments on that at all, because it's none of my goddamn business, and it's no one else's either. And when Chester was 11 years old, his parents got divorced, and his dad got custody of him. And my eyebrows don't match at all. Oh my gosh. Oof. With his parents' divorce and the abuse that happened to him, he had the urge to, quote, kill everyone and run away. Which, honestly, I don't blame him. And the way that he coped with a lot of the issues he was having was drawing, like making art and pictures, and writing poetry and writing song lyrics. After his father got custody of him, he also started using a lot of substances. I'm not going to go into every little detail of what all he was using, and just know that it was some pretty heavy stuff. And it got worse as he went into high school. He was bullied, supposedly for being skinny and weird. Which, I was pretty weird. Not really skinny, but weird, nonetheless. So when Chester was 17, he moved in with his mom, and supposedly, after his mom figured out he was using so many substances, she banned him from leaving the house. As a mom, yeah, same. Like, you are getting locked with a padlock. Good luck getting out of my house. He also was working at a Burger King before he decided to become a musician. Which, like, I could just imagine. Like, yeah, hi, Chester. Chester had been really frustrated and almost quit doing music altogether before he met Jeff Blue, who offered him an audition to be part of Linkin Park. And he was like, fuck it. All right. At the time, he was working at a digital services firm for his little day job, and he literally just, like, walked out and ran off to California. He even left his own birthday party early to record his audition. Jeff Blue had became a big shot guy at Warner Brothers. After Chester and Mike were having really it was everybody having a really hard time finding a record label to sign them, Jeff was like, hey, I remember you guys. Come on. So Chester has 6 kids, one of which he adopted during his first marriage. The lady that he was with had a kid already, and then they had one together, and then he legally adopted the other one. Chester was also a major tattoo enthusiast. He actually used to partner with Club Tattoo. And at some point, and I have them somewhere, but I'm not going to dig them out because I just cannot be bothered right now. One year, it was either for my birthday or Christmas, I got like a playing card deck of tattoo designs from like Club Tattoo in Chester, Bennington. Oh my gosh, I freaked out. I still have them somewhere. I don't know where they are. They've survived like 6 moves. They're somewhere. And if I can manage to find a picture of them on Google or whatever, I'll like insert that somewhere in here. But I was excited to say the least. And in 2011, he stated that he was sober. And he had said that all came crashing down when the whole band had kind of an intervention for him, just being like, dude, like, you cannot be doing this shit anymore. Stop. And he did. So Chris and Chester were best friends. I mean, to the point that I believe one of Chris Cornell's children was entrusted to Chester, like Chester was their godfather. And what had happened is in 2007, 2008 on the Project Revolution tour, Cornell and Bennington were, you know, all the bands were all together, and they kind of like sang during each other's sets, and they were like, oh my gosh, we have good chemistry. And then they were like inseparable. I really thought I would have an easier time talking about this section. Chris Cornell committed suicide on May 17th, 2017. And Chester obviously was heartbroken from that because, I mean, anyone would be. I mean, it's hard and it's hurtful when someone you love takes their own life, let alone now that I am a parent, understanding that when a parent takes their own life, that's a whole other tragedy. Mike Shinoda talked about how before they went on to Jimmy Kimmel Live and performed One More Light in Chris Cornell's honor, that Chester could barely get through rehearsal because he was just so emotional. And I mean, for good reason. For Jimmy Kimmel, they were supposed to be doing their song Heavy, but after Chester found out about Chris's passing, he decided to go on to do One More Light instead to honor him because the song is about losing somebody. On May 26th, 2017, a week after that performance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Chester sang Hallelujah at Chris Cornell's funeral service. Oh, why am I gonna cry? Oh, okay, I'm gonna do my eyeliner and then we're gonna talk. At some point, I gotta say it out loud. And, you know, it's been so long. It's been almost 10 years. It's been almost 10 years since Chester Bennington passed. And still to this day, I can guarantee you, any Linkin Park fan that is watching this video is feeling very emotional right now. So at this point in 2017, they were, in fact, all on tour. And what's crazy to me is that after all this time, you know, Chris Cornell's death affected me because I grew up with my mom like blasting Audio Slave and Soundgarden and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, holy shit, you know, like that. I think that just really shocked a lot of the planet, really, because at this point in time, everyone had listened to nu metal. I mean, like, everybody was listening to it. Nickelback, Audio Slave, Alter Bridge, Creed, Linkin Park. Like, it was that era of music. Around 2016 to 2017, the majority of young people to middle-aged people were using YouTube daily. You know, whether it was the news or like Jimmy Kimmel or video game videos or whatever else have you. You know, people were using the internet way more than ever before, as far as I can tell. Obviously, if you have a different experience, feel free to comment down below. But where I'm from, in my experience, I graduated high school in 2016. everyone was watching YouTube, not so much doing K-pop. Like, people had just moved on from that time. And please feel free to recount how it made you feel or what your experience was learning about Chris Cornell's passing in the comments, and how you feel like that might have affected everybody, because it affected everybody. And then Chester's passing as well. Chris Cornell, I mean, he defined or helped define a generation of music. So when everybody found out he had passed, it was like, oh shit, like, you know, everybody, it wasn't just oh, that person died, oh, okay. Everyone felt emotional about it. But then hearing about Chester, that was a shock. I'm sure the people that knew him in person or in real life or whatever you want to call it might have had an idea, but Linkin Park had to cancel the rest of their tour. July 20th of 2017, Chester was found dead, and he had hung himself. There were so many people that paid tribute to Chester after he passed. And I know there was a public tribute event hosted by the remaining members of Linkin Park, but if it tells you anything about the amount of shock it gave to everyone in the industry and everyone across the planet, bands including Blink-182, System of a Down, Korn, Avenged Sevenfold, Bring Me the Horizon, Sum 41, Yellow Card, and a whole bunch of others played at that tribute. Jay-Z, Coldplay, I mean, so many different people from different genres of music came together to celebrate Chester Bennington and pay tribute to what he was, who he was, just everything that he did for the music industry. I mean, not to discredit the other members of Linkin Park, obviously, but with his passing, that was just such, I mean, people didn't know what to do. I know for me personally, I cried. I broke down and cried. I'm pretty sure I was at work at Taco Bell at the time, and I went into that freezer and I cried. I cried and I cried and I cried because I thought there was just no way. There was no way this dude that was such a shining light for millions of people lost his battle to depression. I think that is what hurt so many people. So here's a quote from Fred Durst, the lead singer of Limp Bizkit, if you didn't know. He stated that if it were not for Bennington's voice and his words, nu metal would have never reached the masses and affected so many lives. They did. Linkin Park changed the music industry forever. They changed the planet forever. They changed, arguably, general society, at least in the United States, forever. I mean, I don't know many people who don't know who Linkin Park is. And I know for me personally as well, you know, their music introduced me to a lot of anime. Their music introduced me to EDM because a lot of their songs incorporate a lot of those elements in there. I was going through a rough patch. My childhood was kind of crazy. Their music just kept me going. I remember like standing in my bathroom when I was in like 4th grade, just like lip syncing the words to like Faint or Numb and just like being like, fuck yeah, dude. Like this, their music just inspired so many people. It just, I mean, I just can't talk about it enough, for real. I really would like to hear everybody else's experiences with finding out about Chester's passing. Because I know a lot of people were hurt about it, but I mean, there is only so much someone can do to prevent that kind of thing. As someone who has attempted before, there is only so much you can do to prevent that kind of thing. If someone you love is going to do that, or has attempted that, and or has already passed from that, you need to understand that it is not your fault, and there is nothing that anyone really can do to stop it. It is that person's choice. If they decide that they are going to do that, then they are going to do that, and Sadly, as Chester made a lot of the general public aware, because most of the general public knew who he was, is that there are really not that many warning signs. I mean, there are, like, you have that little, like, national helpline, like, bullet point list of, like, things you can possibly look at to maybe tell if someone's going to attempt on their own life. But in all reality, even the closest people to those people are not going to know. And I would, again, as someone that has attempted multiple times myself, I would hate to think that anyone that I loved or cared about would have blamed themselves or spent the whole rest of their lives thinking that there's something they could have done differently to stop me. I don't know how Chester felt, but I would have to assume that, considering how amazing of a person he was and how much he loved his family, he probably would not want people being too torn up about it. I'm not gonna lie, that was hard to talk about, and quite honestly, I haven't talked about it since it happened. But with that being said, there are a lot of good things that Linkin Park has done. I mentioned philanthropy earlier. So when Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Charlie hit a long time ago, I want to say 2004, 2005, Linkin Park did a whole bunch of charity events and raised a bunch of money to help the victims of those hurricanes. And I remember very specifically, there was a tsunami that hit Japan pretty hard. That was insane. The videos from that were just horrible. And then after that, after they raised a bunch of money for the tsunami victims, I want to say in 2004, 2005, they created their Music for Relief Foundation. So no matter your political stance on the issue, Music for Relief was created to help with climate change and any people affected by natural disasters. Side note, that gnat is still flying around me. Still. And since it was created, it has responded to over 35 natural disasters spanning across 6 continents, which the website is now called Defy Disaster, or I guess like that's where they're hosted on. I will go ahead and link that down below. If you guys want to donate, you can. But they do help people rebuild immediately and long-term after a natural disaster. And just once again, I do need to go ahead and reiterate, if you are struggling with any addiction, mental health issues, abuse, anything, you can overcome it. Don't be scared to reach out for help. I'm going to put other links about that stuff in the description. We will forever be remembering the time that Linkin Park made such a goddamn impression on the whole world through their music. And please, if you want to say anything about Linkin Park, the way that they've impacted you, the way that Chester's death impacted you, anything, please comment it down below. I would love to hear from other fans of Linkin Park, because I feel like I haven't heard about them in a long time, and I wanted to go ahead and make that be my first video. Again, I'm so sorry if this is all over the place. Still getting used to video editing, still getting used to sitting down and actually recording something. So, if you liked it, yay. If you hate it, dislike it, and let me know why. So I can do something better in the future. If you have any questions for me, anything like that, feel free to comment down below. I'll link all my socials in the description. I'm going to be doing more of these. I have 2 toddlers and a full-time job, so I can't guarantee I'm going to have any kind of schedule of any kind. But I'm going to try. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of these videos in the future. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you next time. That's a lie. If there are any bands you'd like to see me talk about, any political issues you'd like to see me talk about, anything at all, questions, mental health questions, anything, tattoo questions, feel free to comment and ask down below, and I will try to make a video about whatever you guys want to see. But once again, thank you for watching. Hope you have a good day.